You're listening to the Things of That Nature podcast. Coming to you from a city that never sleeps is me, your host, Rockshana. I invite you to join me in truly honest, passionate, and fun talks that motivate, invigorate, and maybe inspire. Even though we're no longer in the mile high, the sky is still the limit. Everything and anything goes. So let's start talking about things of that nature. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning into this episode of the Things of That Nature podcast. I'm your host, Rockshana, and I have another author. Like, this is a trend. I think I should just start calling this podcast like the book podcast or something. I don't know. We'll figure it out eventually. But today I have Karin Freeland. So hey, Karin, how's it going?
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on. I know, when you have someone on, they say thank you, but really this is like for me. So thank you.
Well, it's my pleasure then.
So where are you from? What kind of day are you having?
Yeah, so I originally am from upstate New York, small town called Vestal. It's like right outside of Binghamton, maybe an hour south of Syracuse for people who know the upstate New York area. But I have moved quite a few times, probably not as much as some people, but I certainly didn't obviously stay in my hometown. I went to school outside of Rochester, New York. I don't know why I went somewhere colder, like in hindsight, not the best decision, but that's okay. So after college, I migrated to Miami, which was awesome and such a fun place to live when you're young and you have no responsibilities. But it was really hot and I was pretty poor, like waiting tables. And, so I wasn't able to go out and have those fancy $12 martinis that everyone else was enjoying in South Beach. So we moved to Queens, which is where my husband is from, and lived in Astoria for several years before we realized we couldn't actually afford to buy a home in Queens. And we went over the bridge to New Jersey and lived there for 12 years before finally saying, you know what, we're ready for warmer weather again and lower cost of living. And we are now in beautiful Greenville, South Carolina, and I love it.
Wow. Okay. A couple of different moves, couple of different seasons happening there away from the cold. I see the trend.
I need the warmth, I'm like, I would just sit there in my house, especially when I was like working from home, and I would be cold from like October to May. And I'm like, I can't be cold for this many months. like this is not normal. So I'm like loving it down here. Everybody's like, you're crazy. It's so hot in South Carolina. I'm like, I love it. Put me outside. Let me get a suntan and leave me alone. And I'm happy.
I know exactly what you mean. I'm in Vegas now and I grew up in Connecticut. And then I went to Denver. So I totally know what you mean. I'm over the cold. Like, I don't want to anymore.
Now, are you still dancing? Because I saw you're a dancer and I am too. That's what I went to college for.
Same. Yeah. I'm still dancing, trying to still dance. I moved to Vegas really to do the whole showbiz and perform and choreograph and everything. So slowly it's happening.
That's so cool. Stay with it. Cause there's definitely days where I'm like, man, I wish I kept dancing. I wish I kept acting, but oh, well, life gets you to, I'm right where I'm supposed to be now. So it all worked out perfectly fine, but there is always that like little smidge of like, what if I'd stuck with it? I wonder what my life would be like.
I bet. So then how did the transition of becoming a writer come along from being a dancer? Well, obviously you have a creative aspect.
Yes, definitely. So I don't think I ever really knew what I wanted to do with my life. Like I always had dreams and aspirations, but you know how some people wake up and they're like a kid and they're like, I'm going to be a doctor. And they just like go. And that's like their dream. And they always knew that was the thing they wanted. I was just kind of like, I like dancing. Don't really want to have to write an essay to get into college. Like, what's the path of least resistance here? Like, let me just go and I'm going to be a dance major. And so after school, I did that for a couple of years. When we moved back to New York, I was still kind of dancing on the side, but really more had moved into the acting realm and print model, did some small films, nothing major, obviously. And then I got this ridiculous, like harebrained scheme to go and quit acting, work in corporate for 1 year, save up every penny. And then I was going to quit and go act full time and not wait tables, because waiting tables just got in the way of acting and auditioning and all that good stuff. So I go and I work at T-Mobile and I start selling Blackberries. This is like before Blackberries. I mean, before we even had cell phones, right? It's like the old Crackberries. And I remember calling on people and they like to sell them and they would be like, what do I need email on my phone for? That's stupid. And like, it was so hard to sell these things, but turns out I was actually pretty good at it. And I got my first commission check and it had 4 numbers on it. And I'd never seen 4 numbers on one check. And I was like, I'm rich. So I went down to the Coach store and I bought like a purse and a scarf and an iPod holder and like a whole bunch of stuff I didn't need. And the rest was history. I spent the next 15 years in corporate America chasing titles, chasing paychecks, only to wake up right around, my 39th birthday-ish and go, I'm miserable. I'm not happy. Something isn't wrong. How did I get here? How is this my life? And don't get me wrong. I mean, I had a beautiful life, right? I had 2 healthy boys. I was a happy marriage. We had a roof over our head. I had a Benz sitting in the driveway, right? Like if we wanted to go to a New Jersey Devils hockey game, no problem. Mommy's got it. Let's get 3rd row tickets. Like, we were so blessed, and I worked my ass off to get that, but we were so blessed. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't making me tick. There was just like this emptiness inside of me. So someone just out of conversation at work was like, well, what's the one thing, like if this isn't it, what's the one thing you want to do before you die? And I couldn't answer it. Like I legitimately was like, I don't know. I know everything that's wrong with my life, but I can't actually tell you what I want. And that hit me hard, because I was like, okay, I'm wasting a ton of energy right now, just complaining and like wallowing in this sadness and depression and anxiety and whatever, instead of going like, well, what's the thing I want to create? Yeah. And so I realized, it kind of dawned on me, I need to go back and finish this memoir that I started in 2009. So this is like 10 years earlier, and write my story. And so at the time, the book was called I Don't Know My Vagina, but the title obviously morphed to The Ins and Outs of My Vagina, a penetrating memoir. And so I just very quickly realized I need to hire a professional editor. Like, this is going somewhere. This is could be a real thing. And it just took off. And within 2 years, we had a published book. It just launched September 14th of 2021.
Oh, congrats.
Thank you.
Wow. It's like, you asked the perfect question, or you were asked the perfect question. What do you want to do before, you pass? And I think a lot of people think they know the answer. Like, I thought about it. I don't really think I know the answer of mine. I've never thought about that question. Yeah.
And it was very timely for me, because we had just had 2 deaths in the family at that point. And so it felt like I was staring my mortality in the face. Because a lot of people say to me, Karin, why are you thinking about death? Like, I don't think about death. And I was like, I don't know that I thought about it either, until I saw the last of this generation pass away and realized, oh crap, my parents are on deck. And after my parents, it's me. Oh, okay. Like, this is getting a little too real for me now. And I really started to almost panic. Like, I'm wasting my life. What am I doing? I make PowerPoints all day to justify my existence to somebody else. What? No, that's not why I was put here. That can't be why I was put on earth.
Now, are you still doing the corporate America, or are you full-time writer?
So yeah, I have 1 foot in and 1 foot out, but I am not doing traditional corporate like I was doing. So I do some consulting on the side, part-time. It's super flexible. So it allows me to focus on the writing, focus on promoting my book. And then I'm also a life coach. So I decided at my 40th birthday, when I left corporate, that I was going to get certified as a life coach and help other women do not exactly what I did, but basically say, what is it that I want out of life? What is my true purpose? And how do I step into that calling and live the life that I was actually meant to live? So that's been so fulfilling. Like there'll be a time I think where I will only do that and only do the writing. But right now, I mean, the money consulting is so good. It's like, I would be foolish to not keep one foot in because it's so flexible. Like I don't work Fridays, you know, I have Fridays off. I have a 3-day weekend every week and it is glorious. And that was what I always wanted when I was in corporate was I wanted flexibility. I wanted time to spend with my kids or my husband, or, you know, just time for myself to take a breath and just be me and be present in the moment and not constantly be like a chicken with my head cut off. And this situation that I'm in right now has really afforded me that, which has been amazing.
That's nice. You're living like the performer's dream. The
Yes.
flexibility, no Fridays. Oh man, I would love to not work a Friday. I'm getting there.
But here's what I'll say though. Yes. And you can get there. And I think one of the things that's so important is to figure out, again, what do you really want out of life? And what do you need? What do you actually need to be happy? And I think what having a big 6-figure corporate job taught me was, you know, money doesn't buy happiness. And that's really easy to say when you've had money, because when I didn't have money and I was waiting tables and I didn't barely have enough money to eat and would go pretend at the restaurant that like I was interested in how our food was made, I was really there because I didn't have enough money to feed myself. So I would eat a veggie burger for breakfast. I would eat a 5-nut brownie because that's what was left over when they cooked everything up on the menu. But what I realized once I, you know, came back and had this taste of money was it does make things easier. It does not make you happy. It does make your life easier. So I won't hate on having money. And I want to, you know, obviously have this book do amazing. And I, you know, want to have lots of money, but I want it for different reasons than I used to want it. And because I now know what's important to me, it isn't having a fancy car. I don't really care what car I drive anymore. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love my Benz, but you know, like if I have to drive a Honda or something, like, okay, then that's fine. It's a car. It gets me from point A to point B. And if people are judging me based on the car I drive, they're not people that I want or need in my life anyway. But I wouldn't have thought that 10, 15 years ago. But now that I know what's important to me, I don't need to go buy new clothes this season just because it's the new season. I don't really care about that. To me, that's superficial stuff. I'd rather go, you know, to the apple orchard and pick apples with my family on the weekend. Like that's where I want to put my money. So how much do I really need? I don't need to work 60 hours anymore because I don't need the money that 60-hour jobs provide me.
That makes sense. And you know what, you said it right. Someone who's had it, has gone through it, you have a different concept, but still going through the trend of not having it, you come out to be like, all right, cool. I know how this balances. I now understand why people say certain things and the experiences, and you're able to shed light on that for everyone who have it currently or who don't or who are growing there. Like you're like a good feeder for all forms.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
No, with your, is there a book 2 coming?
Everyone has said that. So this, I have to tell you, everyone who has read The Ins and Outs of My Vagina has been like, I didn't want to put it down. And they're binging it in like 48 to 72 hours. And then they're like, where's the next one? And I'm like, whoa, what do you mean the next one? Like this one barely like is out of diapers, like slow your roll. So there's not actively a second one in the works, but I am thinking through potentially what that would look like. Because I think the book starts when I'm very young. I'm 6 years old, and I discover my vagina. Like I actually look at it for the first time and I'm like, what are these different parts? Like, what is this thing? And I get massively confused about what I see and like announce to my family what I think I have going on down there. And they are all like mortified. So you have to read the book to get the full story, but it's really comedic. The whole book, it's just really funny. And it follows me and my vagina named V. She's actually a character in the book, all the way through puberty, getting your period, having sex for the first time, to like having babies and, you know, finding love. And having a miscarriage. So that's like the one not so comedic chapter. But I thought it was really important